Italy. The first associations that come to mind are vacation, wine, scenic landscapes, art, football, pasta, and, of course, Cosa Nostra. But the Sicilians, glorified in books and films all over the world, are not the only mafia operating in the country. Not far from Sicily is the region of Campania, in the very heart of which one of Italy's most ruthless criminal syndicates originated, the Neapolitan Camorra. Cruel, uncontrolled, and completely different from other criminal groups in Italy.
The exact date of the founding of Camorra is unknown. Historians trace their origins to 17th to 18th century southern Italy. Literally, Camorra translates as dispute.
Their peak activity was in the mid-20th century. Over 7,000 people were involved in more than 100 street gangs that gained momentum in Campania in the 1990s. Each gang or family worked independently of the other and on its own territory. As with most criminal gangs, the Camorra's main sources of income were arms trafficking, robbery, racketeering, and blackmail.
They demanded money. When I refused to pay, people came to my store and simply burned it. 30 years of my work have been wasted and destroyed.
There were drugs too. They have a separate place in the Camorra's business structure. Marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and other drugs are sold in Scampia and Secondigliano. These are the poorest regions. Dozens of buildings here are abandoned. As a rule, they are filled with homeless people, drug addicts, and representatives of the poorest class.
Abandoned houses in Secondigliano and Scampia serve as a platform for drug trafficking. Each building yields up to €500,000 for the Camorra. This is the largest point of sale in all of Europe.
The floor in such houses is simply covered with used syringes. The walls serve as storage for the goods, while Camorra members act as the roof, keeping order and offering a wide selection of products. Of course, the police know about these points and have already raided more than once or tried to demolish houses. However, there are two factors that baffle the police. Firstly, demolition would immediately leave hundreds homeless, and secondly, guards are stationed on the upper floors. They have eyes and ears in their territories, keeping them ahead of Italian police. Every time the police arrived, the Camorra was gone.
We are fighting the Camorra. Sometimes we win, and sometimes they do. We are not going to give up. This struggle continues day by day. We hope that someday it will end with our victory.
Eradicating the Camorra is extremely difficult for the police. In the Camorra they do not betray their own, but not because they are dedicated to their work, but because this is how their structure is built. The bosses control the top level of power. On the second level are those who buy and package drugs. Below is capo. They are dealers who supervise streets and marketplaces. And the last level is ordinary members of the Camorra, whose only duty is blackmail and extortion. There is also a separate unit, killers.
Killer units range from dozens to hundreds of people. They have motorcycles, cars, and various types of weapons at their disposal.
All these levels have sub-levels. Each member of the gang knows exactly as much as he needs to do a good job. He no longer cares who is above or below him. So police won't be able to extract information from captured individuals. Gang members' knowledge is confined to their specific field of activity. As for people, they are also silent. Cross the Camorra, and you might not wake up the next day.
The Camorra is a cultural fallacy that destroys human perspectives and destroys human lives.
Speaking of extermination, the Camorra has many methods. A headshot is one of the easiest ways to take a human life. Some people are kidnapped and beaten to death, others, traditionally for Italian crime, are drowned in acid. Sometimes the victim's chest is cut open and a hungry rat is released inside, and, for example, a Lovelace for trying to sleep with the boss's wife is cut off the testicles and sent to the oral cavity of the tempter himself. The Camorra controls nearly all income-generating activities. They shake down ordinary Italians for money. You buy food or drink wine, you pay Camorra. They control cafes, markets, wineries, and restaurants. International corporations such as the Chinese Costco also suffer from Camorra control. It is one of the world's largest container operators. The port of Naples is home to thousands of ship cargo with millions of tons of clothes, toys, shoes and household goods. Camorra representatives immediately select arriving Chinese products and distribute them in their controlled markets.
The uniqueness of organized crime in Naples, and especially in the Camorra, is that in a few decades they have taken control of the most important parts of the region. They cannot be stopped or pressed. They found different ways to expand and fund.
The Camorra also controls transportation, particularly garbage collection, a legal business generating billions in profits. The scheme is simple: people pay the company for garbage collection. Money should ideally fund employee salaries and waste processing. But the company is run by the Camorra, and as you can guess, no salaries are paid and no trash is recycled. The Camorra dump waste everywhere: forests, roads, villages. So the money meant for recycling goes straight into their pockets. And in this simple way, they've effectively created an environmental disaster in Campania and around Naples. People who live near such landfills have an increased risk of getting cancer. In the 90s and early 2000s, 7 to 20 million trash heaps covered hundreds of hectares.
Due to garbage waste, our sheep began to mutate, were born with various defects. In 2003, the Environmental Service came to us and said that dioxin was found in the milk of sheep, so they were killed and burned.
Over time, income rose, particularly from drug trafficking. Contracts with Colombians and other suppliers of psychotropic substances brought not only money but also a war between bandits. The issue of territory control became so acute that during the 90s, an average of 10 corpses were found on the streets of Naples and its environs about once a week. These were not only members of enemy gangs, civilians were also shot. Mass arrests swept through southern Italy. After key gang leaders were behind bars, the police loosened their grip a little. Big mistake. Those evading law enforcement formed new Camorra gangs, a new generation.
New generation, juvenile members of the Camorra criminal gangs, mostly teenagers aged 15 and up.
While the 90s old guard killed for a purpose, these young monsters of the 2000s shoot just for the hell of it. They enjoy moped racing in Naples. To increase adrenaline, racers shoot ordinary passers-by along the way.
At 15, they learn to shoot. At 20, they become killers, and they simply do not live to 30.
Constant skirmishes led to another war 2004 to 2007. Just like the 90s, they killed over drug trade control. You enter a foreign area, you automatically fall under a hail of a variety of weapons. The police seized grenade launchers, pistols and even machine guns. The Neapolitan Camorra sourced weapons globally. But in the mid-2000s, Molotov cocktails were still the weapon of choice.
Between the 1970s and 2008, Camorra wars claimed over 4,000 lives, including civilians.
Violence escalated to the point where the Camorra ignored police raids altogether. As a result, special rapid response departments appeared in law enforcement agencies. These cops ride motorcycles and in civilian clothes. This complicates gang navigation and warnings about disguised raids.
I was investigating the activities of the Camorra. Once I was shot near the highway, they tried to get into my car and I think I would have been finished. I quickly got my bearings and managed to escape.
Such stories are rather exceptions. The Camorra remembers everything and never forgives. In 2001, members of the gang visited Italian entrepreneur Dominic Novella. The requests were standard: money or death. Domenico refused to pay, and in 2001 cops provided him with protection. He had police protection for 7 years until 2008, but once he let his guard down, he was dead within a week.
It's very hard to go through this. He resisted them, not wanting them to profit from others' work.
The Camorra's true face is soaked in children's blood. This is Annalisa Durante. Her life was cut short in 2004 at the age of 14. Annalisa inadvertently walked into a shootout between two bandits while in the city. Used as a human shield, she was shot in the head.
I saw my daughter lying with a hole in her head. I ran out, tried to help her. But she showed no signs of life. My hands were covered in the blood of my own child. Old laws prohibited street shootings if people were present. And now it's just animals. They don't deserve to live.
Usually, people affected by the Camorra set up various organizations and support centers for victims. As they struggle to live on, authorities keep battling the Camorra's flawless hierarchy. In 2008, cops detained 3 members of the gang who were among the top 100 most dangerous criminals in Italy. They organized attacks on migrants, traded weapons and kidnapped people. They wore police uniforms, killing people under the guise of law. Some were shot in the head simply for asking for a cigarette or directions. But, unlike the old guard, young people are not so organized. Due to constant wars, their structure is weakening. Easy to identify, they run Instagrams, give interviews to journalists, and proudly talk about their activities. The secret life is long in the past.
Crime in the districts became the only way to make money, to gain power and respect. Gangs are no longer waiting for the right moment, they now do not know how to wait.
The new Camorra is dishonorable. In the 90s, loyalty to their gang came first. A clan boss's word was law, break it, and you faced a bath in acid. 2 decades, and everything has changed. Gang members switch sides freely, chasing better pay.
Clans delegate to them small matters related to the sale of drugs or racketeering, but often they go beyond what is allowed and act independently. Then the senior bosses intervene and try to settle the situation in order to somehow keep the peace.
Old school bosses' methods don't work anymore. Only police can pacify the Camorra. Every year they arrest gang members. In 2015, one raid nabbed 46 Camorra members.
We aim to control their operational areas. This helps us not only to prevent, but also to inflict preventive blows on gang activities.
And every year is the same. In 2019, one of the most authoritative and wanted bosses, Marco Di Lauro, was detained. He hid from police for 14 years. But the cops in Italy still have work to do. According to the BBC, at least 4,500 Camorra members are at large, and in their pursuit of money and power, they will stop at nothing.